First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Football Booster Club for really making this happen today. Both BJ Lewis, Jamie Lewis, George, anybody else I'm missing here from the Booster Club in terms of the executive committee, thank you so much. We've already had, you can definitely give a round of applause. We've already had these two gentlemen speak to our, this is cutting in and out, so I'm going to go off. We've had these guys talk to a few of our student athletes this morning. Football earlier at 7:30 this morning. Our other teams at 8 to 9 or so. Outstanding. I think you're really in for a treat. I don't want to give away too much because BJ Lewis, who is a friend of and a former alum with one of our speakers, is going to introduce him and kind of get the program started. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce BJ Lewis.
First off, I'd like to introduce Mia Shaw, student at Park Ridge here, who's going to sing the national anthem for us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
What a way to start the day. That was beautiful, Mia. Thank you very much. I would like to start out. I have the pleasure of introducing a friend of mine who I grew up with, played ball on the same very fields that you guys were down at Sulak Field early on, and then made our way up to the high school. And just great memories. I go back to, 4th, 5th grade, I know Tom. And where his life went, and I'll talk a little more about that. But I'd like you to look at your program quickly and go to the back page. And it's Warrior to Warrior. As a group today, I want to empower you to make a difference and bring awareness to this great charity and these people that are hurting so much. As far as comrades of Tom and Chris, they were hand in hand on the battlefield, and now they need your help. They come home and they're damaged, and they need help. So somehow maybe we could do a grassroots thing, or maybe with social media or something, and get the word out, the awareness to this great charity foundation. So whether it's bringing awareness or getting the word out, donations, we're going to have at one of our home football games, we're going to make a Veterans Day game, and we're going to take a collection and whatnot. So with that having been said, think about that, and think about the people out there that are involved. Going to the rest, as far as this program, I'd like to thank the Ryan family for printing this beautiful program that we put together. And on the front, it's American heroes, Tom Chaby and Chris Howe. These two guys are the most humble guys around, and they're not looking for accolades. It's us that are showing our respect to two men that went on and have given us our freedom that we are allowed to live in our life today due to things that these two men have done. I come from a proud military family with my grandfather and my father and my uncles who served. One was esteemed with the Medal of Honor that I went to the White House to accept, and it's ingrained in myself as far as what it is to be an American. And hopefully everyone walks away from today with being a proud American, because this is a wonderful country we live in, and just realize the freedom we have, and it's due to men like the two that you're going to hear speak today. God bless. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Captain Tom Chaby.
It's an honor to be here. I'm humbled to be here. I actually performed in this theater for Coach Camarado's wife in the theater arts program. I got in trouble, and they said the only way I could get out of trouble is if I went in a play. And it ended up being one of the funnest things I did in high school. I couldn't believe how great it was. But coming back here, the memories are just flooding into my mind. And I'm hoping I can share some of the experiences I've had in my career and some of the lessons learned that I've learned from the organizations I've worked with that can make a difference for you, for the school, and for your individual teams, and for your futures. Today's about leadership. Today's about teams. And I'm thinking back to a time I was on the battlefield in Iraq. We were up in the northern part of the country, and we were doing clearance operations. We were helping create stability, as they called it, in a very unstable part of the world, very dangerous. We'd been at war in that country for about 5 years at that point. And we found a cache, a weapons cache. And a cache is where the insurgency hides weapons. You see, during the daytime, the insurgency, they live a normal life. They might be teachers, pharmacists, they may own a business. But at night, they wage war against the nation that they're against and the principles in the government that they don't agree with. In this case, the United States agreed with that government, and we were trying to implement not only stability, but democratic principles that could help create a better life for the people that live there. We found this weapons cache, and this cache was remarkable in many ways. And a weapons cache is usually found under a building, buried under dirt. The weapons are usually rusty, dirty. Functionality, 25% of the weapons actually work. The other 75% are essentially junk. In this case, it was the opposite. 75% of these weapons were highly functional. They were in pristine condition, and the weapons came from Iran, China, Russia, and stand by for this one, the United States. So weapons from all these locations were being used to fight against the Iraqi military, the Iraqi police, and the Allegiant forces, which Chris and I were part of. So the mission for this day was to box these weapons up, take them from the battlefield and move them to somewhere where they could either be destroyed or redistributed to friendly forces. Taking care of business, boxing them up. And we're in a combat zone, as you can imagine, not very safe. City, very urban. You think if you've ever been downtown Newark, very similar to that, about 1 million person population, buildings going up to 40, 50 floors high. Where the weapons were hidden was down below some of the higher buildings, almost in a canyon. And the weapons are being boxed up during daylight hours. The rules of engagement required us to do this during daylight hours. And all of a sudden we heard a gunshot. Okay, we're in a combat zone. There's gunfire all over the place. Really not that big a deal. About 4 seconds later, we hear a second gunshot with the same weapon, the same caliber weapon, and all the Americans on scene recognized the weapon that was being fired. And what had happened was an insurgent came on the rooftop. Imagine you're the team boxing the weapons up, the cache. An insurgent came on one of the rooftops with a rocket-propelled grenade, an RPG, and pointed it, brandished it in the direction of the American and Iraqi forces. Luckily for us, we had 4 sniper teams deployed, and Chris Howe, the speaker after me, he is a sniper, and he maybe can share more of that later with you when we do the Q&A. We had snipers positioned for force protection. About 450 yards across this canyon, one of the snipers saw the insurgent, identified him as an enemy combatant, calculated the windage across this canyon. Wind affects the trajectory of ballistics and bullets. Took the shot, and the first shot hit the insurgent in the shoulder. He dropped the RPG, picked it up, re-engaged, and the American sniper's second shot neutralized the target. We reprimanded the sniper for missing the first shot. I'm kidding. You're supposed to laugh then. And then complimented him for being an amazing warrior that knew what to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about the teamwork, the leadership that went into making a mission like that happen. One thing that Chris and I get the advantage to do, which is an amazing privilege, is spend time working with some of the most elite, effective organizations in the country. Sports teams, I've worked with the Yankees, the Mets, the damn Giants haven't called yet, they're my favorite football team. I work a lot with college football, Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, USC, Michigan. Hockey, I'm with the Tampa Bay Lightning now, and in corporate America. And we get to see what makes these teams effective, what makes them function at this level up here. Everybody in here plays a sport, I'm assuming. Is everybody an athlete here for the most part? You all want to be on the most highly functioning, efficient, and effective team possible. What we're going to talk about today are going to be some of the lessons learned. And I'm here to tell you that every team has commonalities. And it's not highly sophisticated. It's simple. We talked to some of the football captains that are sitting in the front here this morning. Anything we say, was it complex stuff this morning? You know it all. It's all there. It's there for you to do. You don't have to run a 4.3 40-yard dash to be a great leader, have a great team. You don't have to bench press 315 for 15 reps to be part of a great team. You don't need a 38-inch vertical leap. You don't need any of that. You got everything you need. You just have to make some choices. And we're going to talk about those choices. I'm flashing back to my senior year of high school, playing football right down there on that field. We had a great season going. Playing in the state championships against Glen Rock. Go up 21-0. We're rolling. They score. 21-7. They score again. 21-14. They score again. They decide to go for the 2-point conversion. We stop them. The game's going to end in a few seconds. Wait a second, there's a flag. Our all-county middle linebacker, who when I tell you he was 5'6", 145 pounds, am I exaggerating, BJ? No. I mean, unbelievably how hard this guy could hit. Roughing the passer. They get a second chance. They go for the 2-pointer again. They put it in. We lose 22-21. I'm convinced, 100% convinced, if we would have understood some of these principles, more importantly, if I would have understood these principles and applied them as a teammate, that game could have turned out differently. You see, I was a selfish player. I thought mostly about Me. I want this, I want that. Why aren't they throwing me the ball more? Why aren't they letting me play running back? Why aren't they letting me do? That was all BS. I never thought about the team. I'm embarrassed to say that, but it's the truth. I challenge you to listen to what we have to say and think of how what I and Chris talk about could apply to what you're trying to achieve here at Park Ridge High School and beyond. Let me tell you a little bit about the world Chris and I come from. The SEAL community. I just retired a few years ago, and we have a nickname, and we're called the Teams. That's it, it's pure and simple. I never really understood the moniker until later, and now I'm so proud that that is our nickname. We're not the individuals, it's the teams. We get superstar athletes that come in. If they don't fit into the team model, they're gone. I'm not exaggerating. We've had Olympic gold medalists, All-American football players, baseball players, wrestlers, every sport except basketball until, lo and behold, we had two guys, one played at Marquette in the final 8, come and make it through training. But time after time, the best athletes don't make it through the program because they're too selfish. They're not team players. We're all about the team. We build teams to do something greater than ourselves. That's the whole purpose of it. We didn't need a team, we're just going to do it ourselves. But you can't achieve what it is we're after, whether it's on the football field, the basketball court, or in the boardroom for business. Teamwork is everything. And I'm just here to tell you, being part of a team is going to be part of your life from now till you're done. Everything you do is built around teams. In our world, everyone is considered a leader. Early in my career, we're training out in the California desert, a place called Nyland, desolate, 120 degrees in the summer this time of year. And we'd go out there for 30, 35 days, and we would train for about 20 hours a day, sleep for 4, do it again for 34 more days. It was brutal. We like brutal. We like being uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable helps us grow. But this first mission, early in my career, we're out, and I'm the platoon commander, and we're patrolling, and when you patrol with a platoon of 16 men, your gap, I don't know, Chris, would you say it's about from here to that exit sign, is about the distance between individuals. And on this patrol, there were 16 of us patrolling, which is a pretty big patrol. We're patrolling, all of a sudden I feel a tap on my shoulder. And there's one of our instructors, one of our coaches, essentially. They create these simulated drills to train us, to prepare us, to challenge us, to make us feel uncomfortable so we can grow. And he smiles, and I knew I was in for something. He goes, "Sir, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing all right." He giggles. He goes, "Guess what? You're dead." So I had to lie down on the ground, simulate that I had been shot and killed, and I did exactly what he said. About a minute later, the gentleman who was behind me realized something had happened to me. They formed a perimeter around me. They took stock of the platoon. The assistant platoon commander came up, took charge, realized I was no longer with the team. They came up with a plan to move forward. The instructor came in and said, "Who is the most junior guy here?" The young man raised his hand. He was fresh out of high school, only by a year, 19 years old. He said, "That'd be me." "You're in charge of the operation," the instructor said. "You are going to lead the rest of the operation." Keep in mind, to prepare for an operation like we were doing that evening, we plan, typical cycle, probably about 5, 6, maybe even 7 hours of planning. Then we have a brief in a room smaller than this. PLO, it's called, Patrol Leader's Order. How long would those go, Chris, typically?
Hour or two.
Hour or two. So there are an hour or two of details that that young 19-year-old that just graduated high school, he better know what was said there. I'll tell you this, he did not know everything. He muddled his way through the day, and he realized what would be expected of him in the SEAL community. His teammates helped him, he did fine. Everyone is a leader in our world. And I'll challenge you here. Whether you're a captain or a freshman on your first year of a sport, if I were a coach, I would expect you to be a leader. Now that doesn't mean you're going to get up in front of the team and give some motivational speech before the game, but leadership takes many different forms. For example, the choices you make. I have a slide later, 10 things that don't require talent. Look at that. Everybody in this room is capable of doing it. Leadership is a verb. I mentioned I work with the Tampa Bay Lightning. In hockey, they love to nominate the captain. They put a big C on his chest, and he's the captain. Who are the captains in the room? Raise your hand. Yeah. You know who you are. Your players know who you are. Who are the leaders in the room? All right, you guys are not paying attention. Every hand should be going up right now. All right. Leadership is a verb. It's not a noun. It's not a title. It's not something that you put on your resume. Leadership's about influencing. It's about creating the conditions for greatness. Listen to me. It's about creating the conditions for greatness. And each and every one of you have the power to do that by your nonverbal communication, by how you treat your teammates, by how you listen to your coach, by what you do on the field. You're making a choice, and you're all choices collectively. It's action. I hear this argument all the time. Sports teams look at it. Do we want to draft for talent or culture? I'll tell you what, I'm a culture guy every time. Every time. Sure, you want talent and culture if you can get it, but I will not want the most talented guy in the world who does not buy into the culture. I look at that as addition through subtraction. We got rid of a couple guys at the Tampa Bay Lightning 2 years ago, and we improved just by getting rid of them. And one of them was a first-round draft pick. And for those who follow hockey, you know who I'm talking about. And good kid, didn't buy into the culture. He bought into himself. Very selfish. Anybody want to guess what this number represents? What do you got?
Is it like the 10,000 hours thing where if you spend that much time with
Bingo. That's where I get it from. He said, is this number related to Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours? Where if you do something for 10,000 hours, that's how long it takes to become an expert at something. I disagree with the base premise of that, but it makes sense. You've got to work hard to get somewhere. That's how many hours I trained before I went on my first real-world mission. So that's how many hours I practiced at the bottom of those stairs before I finally got onto the football field to play a game, if you could put it in that context. Think about that. 31,000 hours is 3.5 years with no sleep. That's how much I trained, everything Chris and I trained. That's how much I worked on shooting, communicating, moving, interoperating, all the things we have to do, parachuting, diving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's huge. And Chris I won't steal his quote, but training gets us to where we need to be for when it matters most. Who remembers the title of my brief? What do you got? Failure is not an option. So this would seem odd. Use failure as a weapon for growth. Well, if it's not an option, how can you use it? Absolutely. I think failure is my best friend. And earlier, Chris made a comment that resonated with me, where he talked about all you hear about in the resume and that little brochure BJ handed out is all the accolades, all the successes, all the great things that he's achieved. What you don't see is the mountains of failures. The mountains of failures. You know, I'll just throw myself under the bus. And I don't know if my two football coaches in the back remember this, but that year, that great year we had when we lost by 1 point in the state championships, we were playing Emerson, for all you Emerson people. And we should have crushed them, but the opening play, I'm going to throw, BJ doesn't remember this, but it's true. BJ and I were the two middle guys on kickoff, running down the middle, and they did this cross-block strategy where you watch the video, we both ended up on our butts, and Tom Sylvester from Emerson went 93 yards for a touchdown, and we lost that game 20-0, if I have my memory correct. Well, we lost either way. I'm pretty sure it was 20-0. Failures like that are what help you grow. We had a choice. Our whole season could have imploded Think about that, losing a game 20-0, second game of the year. But as a team, our coaches rallied us and we used that to push us towards success. And we had a great season afterwards. In the SEAL community, we look at failure as something, as a measure of effectiveness to tell us where we are with a certain skill set, AKA requirement. So most people look at failure. Who wants to fail? Who wants to fail? Nobody wants to fail. I don't want to fail. But we look at failure as, all right, you failed, let's talk about it. And I'm going to talk about how we communicate a little bit later. We don't look at failure as this personal attack on our self-esteem. It's not about you, your person. You're not a bad person if you fail. You failed. You just didn't do something right. BJ and I just didn't have good peripheral vision. We had tunnel lock, and we were going to crush Tom Sylvester. Meanwhile, he laughed at us as he ran by us. So there we were. We could have done something differently, and we learned from it. In the SEAL community, we changed the context of failure. And we go into meetings, and we're going to, hey, what did you do right? What did you do wrong? It's not good or bad. Think about it contextually. It's not an attack on your self-esteem. So I've had the opportunity to work with all these teams. Chris has had the opportunity to work with all these teams. And you see these commonalities. Great teams do the same things. There's no mistake that the New England Patriots are great year after year after year. And they have different players every year. Sure, Tom Brady's there every year, but they just have a system, a process, a culture. And this model, for me, is the summation of all my notes, of all the teams I've worked with. What does every team have in common? So imagine the stick figures in the middle, that is your team. And this model, I'll build on it for the rest of the brief, and I promise to go quickly. The lighter blue in the middle, that represents your team. The darker blue on the outside represents the outside elements that are preventing you from achieving what you want to do, like win the conference championship, go to states, et cetera, et cetera. I'll refer to all those dynamics that are out there trying to prevent you from achieving what you want as the enemy for the rest of today's talk. You know, is it some enemy that wants to kill you? Absolutely not. But it's an enemy that wants to prevent you from achieving what you're after. So think of it in that context, and the rest will make sense. There are dynamics that are working against you. We wouldn't need to optimize our team if it weren't for all these negative elements that are out there preventing us from success. But this is why we go to optimize. And to me, that's my favorite word. I worked with Coach Saban at Alabama, and I told this story earlier, so I apologize for those that heard it already. The only thing Saban asked me before I went in to talk to the whole team in a setting very similar to this was, Tom, don't talk about winning and losing. Just talk about the process. That's all I want you to focus on. I don't want you to look at this as win, lose. Because you know what? Sometimes things are out of your control. But if you focus on the process, if you focus on what you can control, like the choices you make, then you give yourself the best chance to optimize. Each of these dynamics, in my opinion, presents an opportunity. When I list them, I'll go through that and explain it a little bit better. I work with sports teams, as I've mentioned a couple times, and most sports teams focus on the tangible. What do I mean by that? Tangible are things you can measure clearly. Like how fast is your 40-yard dash? How fast is your mile time? How much can you bench press? What's your shuttle run? What's your vertical leap? These things are black and white, clear, easy to get an answer. In my opinion, the element, the dynamic, collectively, that's going to make the biggest difference for you to have success this year is not the tangible. Because you're about as fast as you're going to be for this season. Yeah, maybe you'll get a step faster, maybe. But what's going to make the biggest difference is the intangible. Leadership. How well do you listen? How well do you communicate? How creative are you? How do you perform under pressure? And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So take a look. Here are all the enemy, and I've got a list of 40 of them if you ever want to hear more. But competition, that's obvious. You guys have competitors. Maybe it's a different high school, different conference, whatever. People that want to beat you. That's the enemy. Fear. You might be afraid of what you're going up against. You're going up against the best team in the conference. Pressure. I'm going to talk about that later, so I'll be quiet here. Injuries. You're going to have injuries. Every athlete has them. Some more than others. The unknown. Wow, I don't know how good these guys are. On and on. You can look at all of them. And you can see each one of those, if you pay attention to it and apply a strategy to combat them, it can make a difference. So imagine for a second, if you improved 1% in each of these elements, you could be who knows how much better. And I bet for us, I'll go back to my Glen Rock State Championship game in the state finals, if we would have been 1% better at just performing under pressure, the pressure of a team coming back, catching up with you, I think we would have won that game. That's my opinion. And it starts with shared values. I talked with Coach Curry a bit on the phone the other day, and I asked him, what is your saying for the year, your vision, and it's dig deep. Did I get that right, Coach? Yeah, dig deep. And I like that. So the shared value on the football team is dig deep. Each team usually has something that they rally around, that they use to focus their energy, and it's great. And it's a shared value, and it's a starting point. It really is, why do you have it? Why does Coach want you to dig deep? He wants to get the most out of your potential. He wants you to play your best so you can compete your best, so you can perform your best. All these great things. But it's the why. Why are you there? And I'll challenge you as you sit here listening to us, think about why are you sitting in here today? Did your coach tell you you had to come? And that's cool. You're not going to hurt my feelings at all. Or is this an opportunity for you to grow just a little bit? Why do you play the sport you play? You know, I think back, why did I play football? I think I just wanted to be part of the cool guy group. And you know what? After I did that theater arts thing with Coach Camarado's wife, the cool guys were probably in theater arts. I was blown away by that, how cool they were. I just didn't know. But for me, my why was weak sauce when I was in high school. The stronger your why is, the more compelling it'll be to help you make those right choices. You know, people look at the SEAL community as the media darlings. Bin Laden, Captain Phillips, Jessica Lange, every big profile mission out there, SEALs were part of it. And I hate the fact that that's out there in the media, but it is what it is. But it wasn't always that way. Back in the 90s, I was in Puerto Rico, and all the best missions would go to the Army Special Operators, Special Forces, or the Rangers. We had one mission opportunity in Colombia where we presented our option, and they selected the Army once again. And we were by far the better option. I say that humbly. Not because I was the guy presenting and briefing. I say it because we had the best gear. We had the best training. We had the best capability. And we had the best strategic vision on how to achieve success in that mission. But they chose the Army. Why? Why did they choose? It was because our values, in my opinion, back then, we were so self-centered. We were stovepiped. We wouldn't communicate with anybody. We were the best shooters. We were in the best shape when it came to running and any of those other elements. We were, clearly, it doesn't sound humble, but I mean it that way. We were just more capable. But we did not collaborate. And we did not understand the broader picture. So we went out to a place called San Clemente Island, and we created our ethos. This was our shared values. If you're interested in what this looks like, just Google tonight, SEAL ethos, and it'll pop right up. You can read it, and you can see what we stand for. But I summated it right there with innovation, fearlessness, and Kaizen. Anybody know what Kaizen means? Nobody. It's a Japanese word that means continual improvement. In the SEAL community, we want continual improvement. We don't ever want to get comfortable with, we've arrived. We've never arrived. We want to keep getting better. Because you know what? We're eventually going to go up against an enemy that's better than we are. And if we did not prepare like that could happen someday, the fault's on us. So we have to continually improve. Comes your foundation. There we go. All right. So Mia, that was legit. You're singing? Holy smokes. I have never heard somebody sing that well without any kind of accompanying music. I realize I'm like tearing up. It was legit. Keep singing. You're phenomenal. Yes, please. I can't imagine, and you're obviously a professional, I can't imagine the pressure of singing in front of a group like this. But some people feel that way about speaking. In fact, the first time I did any public speaking was in college, in Public Speaking 101, and I got a whopping D+ on my talk. The professor laughed at me. He laughed at me in front of my class. He was like, "You're afraid right now." He totally called me out, embarrassed me, and you know what? He knew who he was dealing with. Embarrassing me was the best thing he could do because he challenged me. He made me so uncomfortable, I cringed. But the pressure of speaking in front of a group back then was so daunting, I hated it. I love it now. I love it. But Mia, you're singing. Just bravo. But what do you do? What is pressure? You know, in the SEAL world, we don't have the luxury of figuring out pressure after we get on the battlefield. You better own it before you get there. Because you know what? That could be the difference between life and death. You better have a strategy. And I can talk to you for hours about performing under pressure. There's a book. It's a shameless plug. A friend of mine wrote it. But if you want to learn about performing under pressure, it's called Top Dog. D-O-G, Top Dog. And the science of winning and losing. It explains what happens when you're about to perform and you feel nervous. Who in this room has ever felt nervous? Every hand should go up. And if it didn't, you live in this comfortable bubble that's so pathetic, you need to get out of it. Everybody's going to feel pressure at some point, particularly if you're an athlete. You're eventually going to rise to a place where you're going to be challenged, and you're going to have to go beyond what you're comfortable with. Pressure, the key, in a nutshell, perception is everything. What you perceive, how you perceive the situation, is going to determine what happens internally. What am I talking about? Endocrinology. Do you guys all take biology? You know what it is? It's all these chemicals we have flowing through our blood. Endocrinology is all the hormones that help make up our biology. But those hormones are great on one hand, and they could be very damaging and negative on another. And if you don't understand what's happening, you can't use it to your advantage. Can't grow. You know, I had no idea how to even spell endocrinology when I was an athlete. I had no clue which chemicals were flowing through my body or where they came from. Or are they there all the time? Or do they come and go? They come and go. That's the answer to that question. And they come and go by how you perceive things. It's a light switch. You turn the light switch on, the lights come on. You turn it off, the lights go off. Endocrinology. If you perceive something as a threat, a whole set of chemical changes are going to be happening inside your body. Your thoughts are going to send a signal to your pituitary gland that are going to create this cocktail, if you may, inside that are going to help you perform in a certain way. So who's heard of the evolutionary principle called freeze, fight, or flight? Yeah, well, they'll teach it to you eventually. If you haven't heard it, something's going on with our education system. I remember learning that. I was not a biology guy. But in that system, it goes all the way back to that threatening situation when you're about to get eaten by some threatening animal. You need to survive. And through evolution, you have grown, we have as a species, the human species, developed the process to send a signal to create this cocktail that will allow us to do something remarkable for a few seconds, just to get away and survive. But after that, that chemical balance becomes very negative. You start producing adrenaline at unbelievable levels, cortisol at unbelievable levels. And when this is happening, we've all heard the stories of a woman, her child is under a car. She is like, she's not even thinking about that car weighing 4,000 pounds or whatever it weighs. She just goes over, picks it up like Superman, pulls her kid out, and they're like, holy mackerel, what just happened? It's because of that whole thing there. So it's a choice. When it's a threat, it's unbelievably powerful, but it's short-lived. You need it to be enduring, to use it for your advantage, to speak, to sing, to play a sporting event, whatever that might be. Football, I'll always gravitate back towards the sport I know best. Fourth quarter, one team is winning. We'll say by 20 points. 4 minutes left. And this is to go to the state championship. No way can the other team come back. There's not enough time. It's impossible. The team that's winning, they're jumping around. Their feet are this high off the ground. They could play an entire another game. While the other team that's about to lose, that's going to have to go home, that's not going to qualify for the state championships, that is going to have to look at their parents, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whatever sport they're in, they're going to have to, they're living under a threat condition. They can barely pick themselves up off the ground. When you look at the two teams, do we really think the conditioning of them is that different? It's not. It's not. They're much, much closer than that. But the team that's losing has been living under threat conditions for probably half a game or more, or at least a quarter, where their cortisol and adrenaline has been in overdrive, which is good for a short period, but negative for long-term durations. The other team has decided, hey, we're good. We're going to win this game. We're better. We've got what it takes. They're looking at it as a challenge. They just keep going. They're producing empowering physiology. So do you get it? It's a choice. Perception is everything. For me, I ask myself a question before I do anything that may involve pressure. C or T. Challenge or threat. How am I going to perceive this situation? I'm going to come talk to a couple hundred high school students. Sure, you guys could laugh at me. I could stumble on my words. You could be uninterested and laugh or look the other way or tell jokes to your friends or whatever. That's great. I could look at it that way and just, oh my gosh, and be pressure. Mia could have come up here and looked at singing an amazingly difficult song as I may miss my note, I may go off key, but she didn't. I didn't. We looked at it as a challenge. All right, here's another opportunity for me to rock this. We won't get into Talladega Nights, but like we did earlier, but it's an opportunity to excel. I look at it as a challenge. And by doing that, I'm sending a signal to my pituitary gland to produce the chemicals that are going to give me the best chance to perform at my best level. Because that's all I can do is set the conditions to do my best. That's it. And as you as an athlete, as a leader, who are the leaders in the room again? There we go. I love it. You have to set those conditions. So now, the first piece of the effectiveness model, we've got shared values going out towards the enemy. The second piece is expectations. What do your coaches expect from you? What do your teammates expect from you? What do you expect from yourself? Yeah? You expect greatness? Are you just going to go to practice, hope nobody sees you loafing it? What do you expect? I don't know. I have no idea. I know for me, this is one area that I didn't. Maybe it's because I was selfish. I put out in practice. I hated if I lost a sprint, and I wasn't the fastest guy on the team. I was one of the faster guys. But I hated it. But I knew, ultimately, people expected things from me. Do you know what people expect from you? It's important. It becomes that blueprint. It's a standard. What's the standard you're going to live by? Your coaches have expectations of you. Like the Tampa Bay Lightning. Show up on time. If you show up 30 seconds late for anything, any meeting, you will not play in the next game. These are guys who make $8–10 million a year. They're 30 seconds late, they will not play. And I've seen him sit people for that. Nobody's late for meetings, ever. Ever. And if they're about to be late, some guy comes running in the room. He's in the trainer's room getting his ankle taped. Okay, he's good to go. You better have that excuse there early. But he knows the expectation there. Do you know what's expected of you? You know, some years back, there was a young man, and he was a solid D+, C- student. He was on his way to doing who knows what. And for some reason, he decided to take the SAT test. Do you guys still take that?
Yeah.
Some people, yeah. So he took it, and I remember taking that. I did okay in math, not English. So he took the test, and nobody expected anything from him, but the results came back. And the guy got a 14.8. That's good. Really good. People are like, holy mackerel, what have you been doing the last 2 years? He just started his junior year when he took the test. They immediately got him out of wood shop and out of 8th grade English and put him in some higher level pre-college courses. And he started doing well. He started doing really well. He started getting straight A's. Flash forward to his senior year, straight A's. Gets ready to go to college, applies to colleges, is not good enough scholastically, his record at least, to go to a big college. So he goes to the local community college, crushes it, straight A's. Ends up going to Harvard after that, crushes it, valedictorian. Goes on to life, later on in life, he's the CEO of a company, and his mom calls him and says, hey, honey, I got some mail for you. I'm going to send you cookies. Are you going to be at work for the next couple of weeks? And he said, wait a couple days, and I'll be back in town, and I'll get the box. So he opens the box, and his mail's there. He's sorting through it. He sees one envelope, and the return address is Princeton, New Jersey. And that's where they apply and grade your SAT exams, at least they used to. And he opens it up, and they're like, dear sir, we're just writing to inform you that we do periodic reviews on our standards of our grading. And yours was part of a batch that we just noticed was erroneously scored. You received a 1480 when you really scored a 920. And we apologize for any confusion here. We just wanted to get the record straight. So here is this guy who was on his way to straight D pluses, thinks he got a 1480, and then the guy performs at that level. His self-expectations changed. Equally important, the expectations of all his teachers and teammates and fellow students changed towards him. This is what we apply in the SEAL world, and it's called the Pygmalion effect. We expect everybody to be phenomenal, and we treat them that way until they prove us otherwise. Expect it of yourselves, and I will tell you, you will surprise everyone. I call it expectation management. You can call it whatever you want, but it's really yourself, and it's from every level. This last piece, people think they've arrived. They think, hey, I showed up, this is a small school. I didn't have 9 guys waiting behind me to take my position in football. Sure, there were a couple people that wanted my role, but as long as I was better than them, I was good to go. And I could have been comfortable. But you know what? That's weak. Do you want to be as good as you can be? In our world, I was a SEAL for 26 years. And I retired. The day I retired, I spoke to a room just like this. And I just started laughing. Because I looked in the audience and I saw some of my instructors, some of the Vietnam vets who I had the privilege to work with. I'm like, I still feel like a new guy. Because that's how we make our community feel. We do that to demand they feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, you demand more of yourself. Remember that when you were trying to start? Remember that when you were trying to prove yourself, what you did, how you felt? Then you arrived. Hey, I'm here, baby. I got it going. I got it figured out. Feel like a new guy every day. You feel like a new guy, you'll continue to grow, and you can embrace Kaizen, that principle I mentioned earlier. Here are 10 things that require absolutely no talent. 10 things. I saw this on the locker room wall. I immediately copied it. Being on time and work ethic. Who can't be on time? Who's incapable of that? Who can't have a good, strong, hard work ethic? It's a choice. Effort. Body language. You know what? Sometimes you get upset. I get it. But the choice is how you respond to that. You can have poopy pants and be all mad at the ref because he made a bad call. It's up to you. Is that going to help empower your team? Is it? I don't think so. Own it. Move forward and then take over. Energy and attitude. Passion. Being coachable. I'll tell you this. This is one of my favorites. I was not a very coachable kid. You could talk to 2 of my coaches in the back of the room. I quit one day at practice down there because I was so mad they wouldn't let me play running back. and I got in a fight with Coach Noto, and it got out of hand, so I quit, because it was all about me. It was all about me. And, you know, there were reasons I played the positions I played, and you know what? That's the coach's job to figure out. But being coachable, if I could go back in time, I would be coachable. And the last two, doing extra. Can you do extra? And being prepared, showing up on time with what you need to do, with the right sleep, not staying up to 4 a.m. playing Fortnite. Who plays Fortnite in here? Raise your hand. If you dare raise your hand. All right, let's keep going here. That means to digress. So now you've got these two elements. You've got shared values and expectations going out against the enemy, going against all those dynamics that are preventing you from achieving what you want. There are three more. Buy-in is the next. You have a choice. You know, Coach Curry for the football team, dig deep. Family. These are things that he values. You have a choice. Buy into that. He put out his scouting report on the first team. Are you going to buy into the plan? If you don't agree with it, say something, address it, and then buy in 100%. Your job as a player, my job as a SEAL, is to buy in 100% to whatever it is the leadership's putting out. And my job is to disagree, if I do. But do it early, and then buy in. Listen. Listen. I'll tell you what, my last bullet really is the key to this whole thing. I will take strong buy-in to the worst plan in the world over weak buy-in to the best plan in the world. Let me repeat that. I think strong buy-in to whatever plan it is your coaches are presenting. If you buy into it all in, if you're all in, you're going to have a higher level of success than if you had the best plan in the world and you don't buy into it at all. Buy-in is key. That's the third element. Now we're preventing all these negative dynamics, all the enemy from caving in on us. We're starting to push it out, expand our possibilities. Accountability. I'm just going to tell you right now, this is the hardest piece. Accountability. Who likes to be held accountable? Yep, there we go. We'll talk later. That's awesome. I do too. That's cool that you do. My 10-year-old, my 8-year-old, they do not like to be held accountable. When I talk to them about their performance, about how they dropped the ball because they took their eyes off it, I coach them in football. And I'm like a hawk when it comes to doing things correctly. Even if they caught the ball, if they took their eyes off it, I'm going to hold them accountable. You have to have a process. You have to do it right every time. This is so neglected, and Chris had some great points earlier on this, particularly with the female, the women athletes, is culturally, we do not like to hold each other accountable. It's uncomfortable. Nobody likes it. You don't want it yourself, and it's hard to give it. But you've got to get over that if you want to improve. In the SEAL world, we have no choice. We want to excel. We need to get better because our why, we talked about the why before, my why is strategic failure. That is not an option. Strategic failure. Micro failures, fail forward, phenomenal, embrace it. But strategic failure, negative, Ghost Rider. If my teammate on my left or right, if I do something wrong, if I don't listen intently enough and something happens to one of my teammates because of that, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. And I want to be held accountable, not because it's me and my person. It has nothing to do with me. I'm a good guy. I'm not a bad person. Hold me accountable. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with my performance. It's not about good and bad. I hate those words. It's about right and wrong. Did you do that play right? Did you come off the line of scrimmage right? Did you cover your guy underneath the hoop right? Did you do it right or did you do it wrong? If you did it wrong, let's fix it. Let's make the right choices so we can move forward and get it right. It is where greatness is forged. The New England Patriots, this is what Belichick gets right better than any coach out there. I don't know him. I know some of his assistant coaches and I've talked to him. He holds people accountable in a non-judgmental way, and people accept that accountability. Because that's a choice. Like you two emphatically raised your hand. So I know, what sport do you play? You're a wrestler. Yeah, when somebody tells you, hey, you did this wrong, you're like, teach me. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to get better. You own it. If you own it, you'll get better. It has nothing to do with you as a person. It has to do with you as a functioning athlete and getting better and embracing Kaizen. It is everything to do with leadership and everything to do with humility. I did not like when coaches told me what I was doing wrong because I felt like they were attacking me. I felt like my station on the team was being threatened because they're attacking the fact that I dropped the ball. Maybe I'm not going to start. Maybe I'm not going to get to play. Oh my gosh, it's my ego getting in the way again. You got a choice. If you're humble about it and you put it in a different context, it becomes the most empowering element of a team. Timeliness is key. You've got to have accountability immediately. Like if I jack my kids up 2 days after they did something, they're not even going to know what I'm talking about. It's got to be immediate. I'm going to skip that story and hot wash. Our community, we have these meetings. And we have a meeting after every training session, after every mission. And in these meetings, we get rid of the self-esteem. We get rid of the rank. We go in there and we're going to get to the truth. What's the good? Really, more importantly, what's the right? What's the wrong? And what's the ugly? What did we do that was right? Let's get that out of the way. We did this, this, and this correctly. Great, our training's working there. Boom. What did we do incorrectly? All right, we could have done this better. We could have done that better. We could have done this better. Let's delve. What can we do? How can we change our training program so we can improve in those areas? What do we need to do? What was really ugly? Where's our buy-in? Our shared values empowering all this? You have to ask the tough questions. Now we've got these 4 elements, but it's still not complete. We still have that gap up there. There's one final piece. Empowerment. Empowerment comes from 2 places. You're either empowered by your coach, teacher, authority, or you go out and find your own. Leaders do set the tone. Head coaches, teachers, they can empower you or not. And good leaders do empower their people. They hold them accountable. I worked with Florida State for 4 years straight, the year they won the national championship. I didn't work with them last year, nor am I this year. And I asked the guys in the room, it was probably near this many people on their varsity team, I said, who are the 22 starters in the room? And 34 hands went up, so I realized about 12 guys in the room were a little bit delusional, but that's fine. The rest of the people in the room knew that they weren't going to be starting. At least at that point, they were fighting for a position. I said, the guys, your hands that are up, Coach Jimbo Fisher has given you relevance. He has made you relevant. He said, you, Jameis, you're going to be the quarterback. On and on, down the line. Everybody else in the room, you need to go out and find your relevance. Where can I bring coach relevance? Where can I make a difference on this team? Maybe you're not going to be the starting quarterback. Maybe you're going to be the guy with the clipboard, and you're going to help your starting quarterback see tendencies he may be missing on the backside. Or maybe you're going to be the guy to keep your starting quarterback out of trouble on Saturday night because he's got a temperament problem. Did I say that out loud? But whatever it is, find your relevance and go out there and do it. Challenge your coaches. I don't think Coach Curry or any of the other coaches in the room would mind if you came up and said, I want to be more relevant on this team. How can I do that? They may tell you you need to get better. You may need to improve, and that's probably what you're going to hear. But can I find a place? Can I be the field goal holder? Can I be on kickoff team? I think I can do it. Keep challenging. If I were a coach, and I don't mean to put you in a funky place, I would want people begging me, how can I be more relevant? How can I be more relevant? Look for it. Work. But you need to go out there and look for it. You can't expect it to come to you. Do you want to be relevant? I mean, who doesn't want to be relevant? Anybody in the room? I've never met anybody that was part of a team that didn't want to be a relevant member of it. Find your place and become relevant. Always look for it. That's it. These 5 elements. Shared values. Your coaches are going to give you that. If you disagree with it, if you don't think dig deep is good or family is good, which I don't see how you could, but if you did, say something. Go, I don't like it. I think this would be better. All right, maybe we'll use that next year, next season. Expectations. If you don't know what's expected of you, ask. I never would dare to ask. I just assumed if I didn't know, I would just muddle my way through it. Ask. If you don't know what's expected of you, buy in. It is your job to buy in 100%. If you're on the team, there's a vision, there's a narrative, you got to buy into it. If you don't, and there's a reason, share it, and then buy in or get out of the way. That's the thing we do in our world. Accountability. If there's one thing you walk away from with today, accept being held accountable. It's nothing against you. The coaches all love you. They want you to do great. They have nothing against you. They want you to improve, and that's what it's all about. And empowerment, if you're not being empowered from the coaches, go out and find your own. You know, Bear Bryant said, cause something to happen. Go out there. Make something happen. Improve. Run more. Lift more. Ask the coach. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pass the baton, but I want to introduce Chris real quickly. It's an honor to be here with Chris. Chris and I were teammates at SEAL Team 5, and when I say he was one of the finest warriors I had the privilege to work beside, it's an understatement. I met him early in his career. I've been around for a while. When you hear him speak, you're going to get a feel for the professionalism, the capability, and just the man Chris Howe truly is. But the difference he made at our team, in his platoon, in his troop, on the battlefield, but most importantly in his family. He's a huge family man, which I respect. Never ceased to amaze me. And Chris has since left the SEAL world. He works with dozens and dozens of teams. I'm sure he'll lace some of that into his talk. But please give him the same attention you gave me. Think of questions, and we're both going to come up at the end, and we'll together answer whatever you may have.
So, my name is Chris Howe, and like Captain Chaby said, I'm a former U.S. Navy SEAL. Now listen, I'm not all that much older than you, and I was in your exact position not all that too long ago. I graduated from a very similar sized high school up in New Hampshire in 2004, and immediately volunteered for and enlisted in the Navy's Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, or BUDS, right? I started training with Class 257 and 248 original candidates. 248. 6 months later, we graduated 12 of those original 248. 12 out of 248. And of those 12, I was the second youngest in my class at just 19 years old. Upon graduation of Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, or BUDS, I went to the SEAL qualification training. I went to jump school down in Fort Benning, learned how to jump out of airplanes. I was assigned to the Joint Special Forces Medical Training School down in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is the U.S. military's premier combat medic course. I went to school with Army Rangers, Green Berets, Delta Force, Air Force Pararescuemen, because it created that unity and that team cohesiveness where we need to use that skill set downrange. After 8 months of graduation, after 8 months, I graduated from that training and was assigned to SEAL Team 5 under the command of Captain Chaby. And while at Team 5, I conducted 2 combat deployments to Baghdad and Fallujah, Iraq in 2008 and 2010. Now, during that time, I served as my 40-man task unit. My 40-man task unit's senior medic and lead sniper. And overall, I conducted 66 direct action missions against our nation's enemies. And for those of you that are unaware, very simply put, a direct action mission is you blow the door in and you shoot all the bad guys in the face. Decided to leave the Navy in 2012. Since then, I've worked for the U.S. State Department. I've worked private security back in Iraq. I've worked for an international medical and securities evacuation company. For the past 4 years, however, I've been working doing leadership development and team building with professional athletes, collegiate athletes, high school athletes, corporations. However, 6 months ago, I took a step back from that, and I'm now the Vice President of Brand Ambassador Development at a pediatric dental office up in upstate New York. I'm in charge of internal brand. I'm in charge of making our people better. So I asked the second group, tell me about your dentist's office. Who goes to the dentist here? Raise your hand if you go to the dentist. First hand that went up with the green bracelet on. What's your first name? Watch it, excuse me, yes. Yes.
Molly Jackson.
Molly, tell me how many people work at your dental office? Maybe like 5?
Yes.
Do we have anyone that beats 5? How many? It's more than 5. I don't know how many?
Probably about 16 or 20.
16 or 20? Can anybody beat 16 or 20? 16 or 20? Shay's 28. Shay, you are just killing it. So here's why I ask. Because it doesn't seem that challenging, right? I just run the people. I'm the people person, right? We have 7 full-time dentists. We have a staff of 112. We see 350 kids a day. We have an active patient roster of 30,000. There are a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of moving parts. And we're building a second building, and I'm in charge of hiring another 100 people. So if anybody's looking for a job in the dental field and wants to move to upstate New York, let me know. But in all seriousness, I stepped back from my role, from doing this full-time, because I feel pretty comfortable doing this. I can stand up here and I can talk to you for a couple hours about leadership and team building, but it doesn't make me any better. And I took a step into my new role because that gets me out of my comfort zone. Because I believe that you only grow when you're outside of your comfort zone. And you have to force yourself outside your comfort zone. It's not easy. People don't like to do it. It's scary. But you have to do it. You have to do it. Now, quick show of hands. How many leaders do we have in the room? Oh man, Chaby, they're learning. Fantastic. Now, as a leader, you're going to get held to 2 standards. Black and white, or right or wrong. 2 standards. If you're a leader, and everybody is, we've already established that, what do you think the 2 most important standards are that you're going to get held to? This year, next year, the rest of your life. What do you think? What's a standard that we're going to hold leaders to? Can you do me a favor, just stand up and say it out loud so everybody can hear you?
Taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility? Okay. What else? What else? Say it again?
Stay motivated.
Stay motivated. That's absolutely important. What else? We do like an applause meter. Like that was a decent answer. Right? What else? What else is important? If you're a leader, 2 standards.
Can you define what a standard is and what constitutes it?
Absolutely. That's a great question. What's your first name?
Paco?
Paco, what do you play? Do you play here?
I used to wrestle.
You used to wrestle?
Yeah.
Okay, Paco. Let me just be very clear. Standards are different than goals. Standards are different than goals. Standards are performance-based. There's a metrics to them, right? They're black and white. You either meet it or you don't. There's no gray area, right? If you accomplish your standard, you're doing well. If you fail to accomplish your standard, you're not doing a good job. Say that again?
Measurable.
They're measurable. They're attainable. You can say, yes, we are meeting the standard, or no, we are not meeting the standard. Goals are variable. You can depending on where you are, right? So give me a pin percentage that you'd love to get in wrestling.
110.
110? Is that possible? Get 110%? I don't know wrestling very well, so what's that?
What, if you perceive that you put in 110%, then perhaps that is,
But something that's measurable. Like what's something that you can, with weight, what weight class did you wrestle in?
113.
113. Okay, so Paco, if you came in and your standard was, I've got to be 113, right? 113 pounds, right? 113 pounds, that's it. What happens when you're over 113 pounds?
He
Gotta lose some weight.
Saran wrap.
Right, but what happens when you go to weigh-in and you're overweight?
Gotta keep working. Just lose the weight.
Do you get to wrestle that? If you walk up to the meet, do you get to wrestle?
Oh, well, you would bump up a weight technically, but you are...
Right. For argument's sake, right? You didn't meet the standard, so you have to do something different, right? You tracking where I'm going with this? The standards are black and white. You either accomplish it or you don't accomplish it. Does that make sense? Yes? Bear with me, you're going to see where I'm going in a second. Standard. Leaders get held to 2 standards. I'm just going to tell you. Leaders first must accomplish the mission. They have to get the job done. As a leader, you're held responsible for whatever happens or fails to happen. Period. End of conversation. Think about this for a second. If you make a poor decision, on Saturday night, is your coach going to hear about it?
Depending on the situation.
You get hemmed up and are in jail. Is your coach going to hear about it? Why? Why is your coach going to hear about it?
It's a small town.
Well, yeah, it's a small town. Why else? Stand up and say it loud so we can hear you. Come on, Ashley, you know the drill. Okay. Ashley, but at the end of the day, is your coach responsible for you?
At the end of the day or in the beginning of the day?
Yeah, Ashley, where are you going to school?
What?
Where are you going to school after this?
Where am I going to school?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where do you want to go?
I don't know.
What do you want to do with your life?
Help people.
How are you going to do that?
Well, I mean, I don't have like a whole life story. like, I want to play volleyball. If I don't play volleyball, I'm not going to college. And then I'm going to Africa.
So Ashley, the reason I asked, Ashley, listen, the reason I asked is because at the end of the day, who's responsible for you?
I'm responsible for myself.
How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
So who's technically responsible for you?
My parents.
Parents, right?
What?
Yeah, because they're in charge, right? At least for another year or less?
Sadly.
Yeah, right? But leaders, your parents, are in charge. They're going to get held accountable. If you make a dumb decision and get hemmed up, are they going to hear about it?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Is your volleyball coach going to hear about it?
Most of the time.
Is the school administrator going to hear about it? Principal, their principal or dean or head of school?
Yeah,
They're gonna-
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why? Why?
Because,
Because they're responsible for you. Because they're in charge, right?
yeah,
So are they going to get held accountable if you make a dumb decision?
yes.
They're going to say, why was Ashley out on the river floating beer cans down the river? Does that ever happen? No. But Ashley, you understand what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, no.
Leaders are held responsible for whatever happens or fails to happen. They must first accomplish the mission, and then they must take care of their people. Now, in my world, taking care of your people means making every decision that you ever make as a leader with your team's best interest at heart. Your team's best interest, and then the individual teammate. Ashley, what position do you play on the court?
I'm an outside hitter.
You're an outside hitter. What year are you? You're going to your senior year?
Going, yeah.
Okay, so Ashley, what happens when we have, do you have transfer rules here? I have to preface all of my questions with qualifying questions because you guys are a smart group and do you have transfer rules?
Transfer, yeah, I transferred here.
Okay, if someone transferred in today, will they be able to play this year?
They have to sit for half of the season.
They have to sit for half the season. Okay, so hey, Ashley, I just got off the phone. We've got this great girl from Croatia that's transferring in. She's an outside hitter. Hey, Ash, I need you to move to middle.
Okay, coach, whatever's best for the team.
Whatever's best for who?
The team.
What if you made all county last year as outside?
Doesn't matter, it's best for the team.
What's best for the team? Now, do you truly believe that?
Yes.
Okay? But it's easy to say here, right? Hey, coach, give my spot to the better person. It's very easy to say that. But when push comes to shove, it's difficult to swallow that pill.
Yeah, you just don't show it.
Doesn't make it any less difficult though, right?
Yeah, but like it can hurt you personally, but like you gotta do what's best for the team.
You have to do what's best for the team first, right?
First.
Team and then teammate. Mission accomplishment first, then take care of your team, then take care of your teammates. BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition Seal Training, is 6 months long. The basic course is 6 months long. It's broken into 3 phases. First phase, second phase, and third phase, since the Navy is so complex with their naming schemes, right? It's broken into 3 phases. First phase is where you have the highest level of attrition. Most people drop out. First phase is 6 weeks long. You go through the infamous Hell Week in week 4. Anybody know what Hell Week is?
I heard something that may or may not be true. You there's one night where you just stay in mud and you just kind of sit there for an an entire night and it's like completely freezing?
That's fairly accurate. You don't just sit there, you kind of crawl around and, yeah, it's pretty, mud flats are pretty awful. It's the runoff from the Tijuana estuary, so you get all sorts of nasty stuff floating around. It's in your hair, it's in your nose, in your ears. It's great. What else do we know about Hell Week?
Is that where like one of the times you get dropped off in a remote area and you have to like survive from like different nights?
No, that's a different night. What else do we know?
Where you got like, you have a team of guys who have a board over your head, you gotta like bump together inside like a water, like the ocean.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just not Hell Week, that's every week.
That's
That's every day, every week. Hell Week is 5 days long. Hell Week starts on Sunday night and goes until Friday afternoon. For the entire week, you are cold, you are wet, and you are sandy. Hell Week starts on Sunday night. You don't get your first, well, you get 4 hours of sleep for not every night. That's 4 hours of sleep for the entire week, and you get two 2-hour naps, and you don't get your first 2-hour nap until Wednesday afternoon. So you're awake Sunday night to Wednesday afternoon. Roughly how many hours are you awake at that point? 72-ish? 72-ish. Let me tell you, never be awake for 72 hours straight. You start hallucinating. You start going crazy. And that's just Wednesday. And the key to buds, the key to anything really, is just not quitting, right? So Hell Week is when you get the most people to drop out, and that thins your class down a bit. Now I was 19 years old when I went through Hell Week. And I remember sitting there in the surf with your arms lashed together with your teammates to your left and right, getting what's called surf tortured, where you lay down in the ocean and the water just runs up and over you, except it's got, you guys have been to the shore before, you know, the water right at the edge, it's got little sand particles in it. And when it washes back over you, since you're upside down, it goes up your nose, in your mouth, in your eyes, in your ears. You guys, I don't like sand. And there's nothing worse than digging sand out of your ears like 9 months later. Like, where did that come from? It's a strange feeling. But Hell Week just is designed to see if you're going to quit. And that's just week 4 of training. And then you go on to the second phase, which is all the diving. You learn the ins and outs of our open circuit diving, where they conduct surf hits, which the instructors lovingly call underwater rodeo, where you're crawling along the bottom of the pool and you've got your tanks on, you've got your dual regulator in, and the instructor swims down, rips your mask off, rips the regulator out, spins you around, turns the air off, ties your hose into knots, gives you a kick in the stomach, and swims off. Now the fun thing is, you're crawling along the bottom of the pool deck at 9 feet of water, and you're looking straight down. And you have no idea when that instructor's going to come and hit you. So you're trying to time your breaths. Breathe out, breathe in fast. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Nope, they're not here yet. Breathe out, breathe in fast. Because if you're in the middle of an exhale and that instructor rips the regulator out of your mouth, well, you're holding your breath for a long time with minimal air. And I'll tell you, when I got to the end of pool comp, the final selection, the final piece of open circuit, second phase, I was in the middle of an exhale when my mouthpiece got ripped out. And they tie your hoses into a series of knots. They call it the whammy knot. And they give you a kick and they let you figure it out. And you, just by feel, because it's all blurry, you don't have your mask on, you feel, okay, I can't get the knot out, I'm going to put my gear this way, I'm going to stack it, I'm going to do what's called a free surface ascent. So when you're breathing compressed air at depth, you have to exhale as you go up in the water column, because air is compressed in your tissue, in your lungs, right? And if you go up where there's less pressure, you're going to get an overexpansion injury, an AGE, poise, you're going to get the bends, right? Your lungs will start to explode, the alveoli sacs. So what you do is you put your mouth at the bottom of the pool and you start blowing out, and you're not supposed to ascend faster than your bubbles go. It's a good rule of thumb. This is taught to every new trainee. It's ingrained in you what to do. Don't panic. If you panic and you shoot to the surface, you're getting a ride in the barometric chamber. You're getting pressed. So I put my mouth on the bottom of the pool deck, and I've been underwater by about 2.5 minutes at this point. And I went to blow out. I put my lips on the bottom of the pool, and I went to exhale, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And the next thing I knew, I was on the surface with the standby diver, regulator in my mouth, and he looks at me, he's got me held by the shirt, he looks at me and said, "You all right?" I said, "Who you are, instructor?" He said, get out, you passed. I said, what happened? He said, you just passed out underwater, get out of the pool. Okay. Moving on. That's just second phase. And then you go to third phase, where you learn the ins and outs of explosives, on how to shoot, on how to use the radio. The very, 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 very basics. You don't learn anything about being an actual SEAL. You learn the basics of it. And this was 6 months long. And we went from 248 down to 12. And by this time, I'm still 19 years old, right? Still 19 years old. But my class is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm getting closer and closer and closer with my classmates. Graduate from SEAL training. Go to SEAL qualification training, which is another 6 months long. You'll learn the finer details. You go up to Alaska, learn how to survive in the cold weather. Go jump out of planes. You go spend time out in an island, out in the desert, in 120-degree heat. You think you learn what it takes to be a frogman. You think you learn what it takes to be a team guy. And then since I was a medic, since I was a corpsman, I got to go to 8 more months of school out in Fort Bragg, where I turned 21. And I learned the ins and outs of the human body. I met a recruiter in high school, and he said, if I could do it over again, I'd be a medic, because they get to go on every mission. And I said, well, I took anatomy in high school. How hard can that be? Anybody have any idea how many muscles are in the actual body?
Under 6.
Something. A lot. More than I ever expected. I knew that it was not good to lose one of them, right?
The only reason I'm taking this is because I took anatomy.
There you go. So my perception was, hey, how hard can this be? I'll tell you what, that was my perception in all of training. So I finished training, and I finally, I'm going to my team. I'm 21 years old. Finally going to my team. Check into SEAL Team 5, and I'm greeted by Captain Chaby. Stands up, walks around the desk, shakes my hand. Welcome to Team 5. Happy to have you. Welcome to the show. What can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you need? This is the most senior man of the entire team. He's in charge of everybody. Taken aback. Said, "Thank you, Skipper. I'm happy to be here. Just want to help out the team." These guys were just coming back from crushing souls in Ramadi. Guys like Marcus Luttrell, Morgan Luttrell, incredible warriors. I had some big shoes to step into. And I knew that I could do it, so I started accepting more responsibility. What can I do to help out my teammates? 21 years old, I've got some barrel-chested freedom fighters that I'm looking up to, and I start training. Now, when you get to the teams, you have another 1.5 year long block of training. Another 1.5 year long block of training, where you learn what it really takes to be an operator, or what you think it takes to be an operator. You go over every single piece of the job. You'll learn how to drive the vehicles. You'll learn how to shoot all the weapons. You'll learn how to skydive, how to free-fall parachute. You'll learn how to sneak around at night. You'll learn to speak different languages. And this is all training. This is all training. And all I'm doing is wanting to get to the show. I just want to get to the show. I finally want to get there. But I've got more training and more training and more training. Finally, after 1.5 years at Team 5, finally, we got the green light. Finally, my task unit, my platoon, SEAL Team 5, Task Team 1, out platoon, we were given the green light. Hey, you're going to the hottest spot in the country. You're going to Fallujah. Okay? Now, the city of Fallujah was a location for from the strongest resistance from the insurgents. The Battle of Fallujah is epic. The Marines forcing the insurgents out, trying to instill democracy within the city. You want to talk about scary? You talk about fighting wall to wall, fighting for inches, seeing the wall explode around you and your teammates. Talk about some scary stuff. And that's the city that I'm walking into. Okay. Get on a plane, say goodbye to my wife, my pregnant wife, not knowing if I'd ever see her again. Finally, I get to do my job. 22 years old at this point, I get off the plane in Baghdad at the end of August. walk into the SEAL room that's there, and I'm met by some of my classmates that I knew going through BUDS in SEAL Team 3, and we started doing some turnover operations. They had been doing some work in Solder City, doing some really, really good work. Anybody know who Chris Kyle is? Who's Chris Kyle, for those that don't know? He's American Sniper. Anybody not know who American Sniper is? Get out your Google, iTunes, Face, whatever, at some point there today. Look him up. Incredible, incredible story, incredible man.
Like 200 something people in the field.
He killed a lot of bad dudes.
Yeah.
So I'm getting to Fallujah late August, and I'm met by guys like Chris Kyle, who's getting on the plane, going out as I'm walking in. And I'm thinking, man, I've got some pretty big shoes to fill. Here I am, 22 years old, first deployment, first real time to prove myself. Finally, I'm here, finally. We get handed a giant stack, a mission dossier of targets that they didn't have the opportunity to prosecute. SEAL Team 3 didn't have the opportunity to prosecute. They didn't have enough intelligence. They didn't have enough people. They didn't have the right, what they needed. Now, this is a unique time in Iraq because we were transitioning from Operation Iraqi Freedom, which was a unilateral. It was a hammer. We were transitioning from a unilateral mission set, a kill the bad guys, to a Operation New Dawn, a softer, gentler. The mission was changing. Now we needed to go out with our Iraqi partner forces. We could no longer go out by ourselves. We had to bring our Iraqis with us. We had to put an Iraqi face on it, the softer, gentler type of warfare. So I get to Iraq just as this is happening, get this giant mission pack with my teammates, and we start going through it. Because when you get into country, the first thing you want to do is make an impression. There's a new sheriff in town. We're going to start knocking some skulls together, start making the battle space safe for our partners, for the Iraqis, for the Marines, for the Army. That's what we're there to do. So we go to the pile, and we find the biggest, baddest dude that's there. The target we decided to go after on our first mission was an IED maker. Who knows what an IED is? An explosive? What does IED stand for? Improvised explosive device. What does that actually mean in layman's terms?
Homemade bomb.
A homemade bomb. A homemade bomb. And they're really easy to make. You don't need much, right? You need an explosive charge. You need some way to detonate it. Anything else? That's pretty much it, right? It's pretty simple. So the guy we decided to go after as our first target was an IED maker. His fingerprints had actually been found on a bomb fragment that had killed a United States Marine. We knew he was a bad guy. And we wanted to make an impression on the local community. We are not going to put up with this. Our Marines, our Marine brothers and sisters, our Army brothers and sisters, we're not going to allow them to be targeted. So we start making a plan. We start making a plan. We establish the fact that based on his pattern of life, based on the atmospherics, based on the intelligence that we gather, we establish that he's in one of these three houses out in the middle of this palm farm, equated to the woodland areas around here. There's three buildings in a complex. They're three individual buildings. We know he's in one of the three. Well, we know, we Americans, we know, we're pretty sure he's in the middle building. We're pretty sure. The other two buildings, there's a possibility that he could be in there, but we're, I'd say, probably 80 to 90% sure he's in the middle building. Now, this is our first mission. This is our first mission as Americans on the ground in Iraq. 22 years old, been in the Navy now for 4 years. Finally, get to do the job. So we start making our mission. And we decide that, you know what, we have to bring our Iraqi partners with us. We have to put an Iraqi face on it. But we don't have to tell them where we think he is. We say he's in one of these three buildings. So what we're going to do, we're going to stack the deck in our favor. We're going to send half of our Iraqi partners to target A. We're going to send half of our Iraqis to target C. And our main assault force is going to go to target B, the building in the middle. We send two of our Americans, two of our SEALs with target A and target B to act as line of communication between us, the main assault force, and the other two buildings. So when assaulting a target, there's two trains of thoughts. You can come in loud and fast and hard, or you can come in slow and quiet and methodical. Now, based on the imagery that we had of the building, we knew it was in a wooded palm area. So normally we'd come in on helicopters and we'd kick a fast rope out and we'd fast rope down on the roof and just storm the building and hit it hard. What happens when you do that?
They know you're coming.
They know you're coming. They know you're coming, that's for sure. What else happens?
Well, you said it's in the middle of the lake, but it's over there. It's those three buildings alone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there's not much room for them to escape, so when they do try to basically flood out, you have them out in the open.
More or less. But you lose the element of surprise, right?
Yeah.
When you, oh, they know you're coming. There's nothing more American than two SH-60 helicopters hovering above your house. You want to smell freedom? There it is. So that's one train of thought. The other is what we call a vehicle drop-off, a VDO to a foot patrol, which means that our big armored vehicles, our safety, drops us off about 3 to 5 miles out, and we walk in. What happens when you do that?
You're more vulnerable to, like, attack, to be attacked
Yep.
than the target.
You're much more vulnerable to be attacked in a rout, right? What else happens?
You lose time.
You lose time. What else?
It's more time for them to escape.
It's more time for them to escape.
They are aware.
Okay, what do you gain?
Surprise.
Element of surprise.
Self.
Stealth. We brought 8 guys on target with us that night. There are 8 Americans in the main assault force. We had 2 Americans in target A, 2 Americans in target C, and about 20 Iraqis spread between the other 2 buildings. Since I was the new guy, and I was the only medic, I got the privilege of going to the main target house. All right, it's game time. I'm going to the main target building. Got off the back of the truck. We line up in our patrol. Point man, Joey got out front and started leading us to target. It's a nice early September evening. It's about 3 in the morning. Just walking down this nice wood road in the middle of Fallujah. It's like we've been there before, hundreds of times. We've practiced for this. We've trained for this for years, hours. We've been training for this moment, and finally we're here. Get to the breakoff point. Assault Team Alpha, half of our Iraqis and 2 are Americans, they go up to Alpha House. Assault Team Charlie, the other half of the Iraqis and the other 2 Americans, they break off to Charlie House. And so all the pieces start moving. Main assault force. Bravo House, we start lining up. Now imagine if you will, you're walking through this wooded area and you come upon these houses. They're 2-story houses. They're made of concrete block. And they loom out of the haze, and all of a sudden they're getting closer and closer and closer. And you hear over the radio, hey, break off point, and you see half of your troops going this way, you see half your troops going this way, and you're following your point man right to the front, right to the main building. And you get lined up on the wall. It's called the stack. It's when you get lined up with all of your teammates. It's your final check before it's go time. You get lined up on the stack. You're waiting for the other 2 houses to get set. I'm number 4 on the stack. It's my point man, it's our breacher, it's the other older guy, Mark, and me. I'm number 4 on the stack. Now imagine, if you will, that as you're waiting there, you start looking in the house, because this is the exact height of the wall. It's a concrete block wall, and they've got these big glass windows right here. So I start looking in the windows. Got my gun out, I'm looking in the windows. Can I see any threats from outside? Our policy was go soft until you had to go loud, which meant if we could take an enemy in the middle of the night and not wake anybody else up, that's what we wanted to do. I tell you, there's nothing cooler than snatching people out of their beds without waking up their wife next to them. Talk about a cool feeling, right? So I line up on the wall, and I start looking in the windows, and everything is green, because under the night vision goggles, you guys have, I'm sure, played Call of Duty or whatever it is you guys play these days. Right? Everything looks green under night vision goggles because it amplifies the ambient light. And I remember looking in the window, and I see a hallway. I see another door, and I see the front door, and it's a steel door. And I also see some sandals, and I see some robes. And I think, okay, this is like the mudroom. Like this is their entryway. This is their entryway. Okay, I know roughly where I am on the grand scheme of things. I don't know what else is in the building, but I can see here. I can clear as much inside from outside as possible. Okay, I don't see any threats. We're good right now. I'm going to let my point man and my breacher go and try and gain access. So I start hearing over the radio, hey, Alpha team set, Charlie team set, Bravo team set, and I hear my boss. I hear my boss Chris in the back say, stand by to execute. 3, 2, 1, execute, execute, execute. That's the signal that all 3 units are to start attacking their given targets. We want to do as close to a simultaneous hit as we possibly can. Because if they start shooting over there and we're not ready yet, these guys are going to wake up. 3, 2, 1, execute, execute, execute. A third execute. Our point man and our breacher go around the corner, and I can see they're trying to mess with the door. I can see just through the window a little bit because I'm kneeling down, and I've got my little head peeked over, and I can see that I think it's locked. The door's locked. Mission over, right? Time to go home. No. We've got to make entry into the house now. Now we have 2 types of breaching that we can use. When I say breaching, I mean open the obstacle, right? In this case, a steel door. We have 2 types of breaching that we use in the SEAL teams. We have mechanical breaching, which are saws, quickie saws, chainsaws, sledgehammers, and we have explosive breaching. Let's talk about mechanical breaching. What are some advantages of mechanical breaching?
I'm guessing it's a lot quieter, and it's a lot.
Relatively, a chainsaw outside your window still sounds pretty loud, right? Or a chainsaw on a steel door, right? What's an advantage of mechanical breaching? What do you gain?
It's quick.
It's quick? It's semi-quick.
Precision.
Oh, sorry.
You gain what?
Precision.
You gain precision, absolutely. What else do you gain?
Control.
Control. What do you lose?
Surprise.
Surprise. You lose that element of surprise. Because, well, 2 SH-60 helicopters hovering over your house smells like freedom. You know what sounds like freedom? A chainsaw out your window trying to cut your door down. That sounds pretty American too, right? So we lose the element of surprise. What are some disadvantages of using explosives? Of going explosive breaching?
They kill the other targets if they are in the other buildings.
Oh, absolutely. The gig is up at that point, right?
Yeah.
What else is a disadvantage? You can accidentally kill an innocent person? Absolutely. What else? What's another disadvantage of explosively breaching the door?
I have a cool question.
Sure.
Were you trying to like capture and persecute the person with the bombs, or were you trying to like execute these moves?
This is a capture if possible.
Capture if possible.
Capture if possible. Yep.
Set off other explosives that possibly would.
It could set off other explosives. Absolutely. And ultimately, you don't know what it's going to do to the structure, right? Because, I don't know if you guys know this, but the building codes in Iraq are a little lax. There's no clearly marked fire exits on the doors. That's not something that they do there. So you lose control over how much damage you cause, right? What's an advantage of using explosives? Time. There's nothing faster than blowing a door in, right? Like, that's pretty fast. Do you gain anything else? Not really. You gain time, right? We want to use speed, surprise, and violence of action. That's how we gain the upper hand. We've got how many SEALs on our main assault force? We've got 8. We've got 8 guys. 8 guys with 8 guns. Each of us carry 6 magazines. Each magazine has 30 rounds in it. How many bullets are we carrying?
240.
240 per guy. How many? 8 people? Say it again. Anybody know? A lot? We gotta work on our calculus. Say it again.
What are the numbers?
2,100?
Somewhere around 1,600.
We're carrying enough bullets to get in a gunfight, right? We're not carrying enough bullets to get in a gunfight for a sustained period of time. So we want to use speed, surprise, and violence of action. That's how we make our money. So, the call was made, hey, we're going to go explosive. We're going to go explosive. So Dan gets his little charge out, and he walks up to the front door, and he puts it directly on the steel door. Very similar to this. He puts a 7-foot strip charge from the top of the door all the way down to the bottom. And he plugs it in, and he walks around the corner. And I see him walk around the corner as I'm hunkering down, 22 years old, first real mission. And I see him walk around the corner with this long string of detonation cord. And I think, okay, this is happening. This is actually happening right now. And I hear LT, charge set, turn steel. When you hear that over the radio, you decide to make yourself very, very, very small. So I get down real low, lower than the level of the windows. Because what's the building made out of? Concrete. What happens with explosives force in a solid object?
There's a lot of shrapnel.
There's a lot of shrapnel. Turn steel, 3, 2, 1, boom! Charge goes off, and it's like time slows down. I see this shower of green crystal glass explode over me and the rest of my stack. It's beautiful. It's eerily quiet for a split second. Then I'm getting shoved in the back. Go, 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 go. Now the gig's up. Now they know we're here. Now it's time to move. As I'm walking past this window, getting ready to go in the main entry, I hear some bullets getting fired. I hear some shots fired in the house. Because Dan had clapped the charge off, he stepped out of the way, ripped the cord out. Joey, Mark made entry into room number 1. And they're immediately met by that other room. They're immediately met by a guy, stands up out of his bed, grabs a handgun, and starts shooting through the doorway at my teammates as they make entry into room 1. Immediately. They both engage the target, drop him in the doorway. Now I'm standing at what was the entryway to the door. What was the door that just got blown open. And I'm waiting for the call to move in. I hear clear left, clear right, all clear. When I hear all clear, that's my signal that that room, that first footprint, it's good to go. I'm ready to move in. So I hear all clear and I walk into the room. I walk into the room with my weapon out, because these guys just got in a gunfight. 22 years old, first mission in Iraq, 4 years in the Navy. Here we go. I see Joey go to the hallway. That's the next unknown threat. I line up behind Joe. Line up behind Joe. Joe's on the edge of the hallway here. Now I'm in charge. I'm in charge. I'm the leader in this position here. Mark, since he was the guy that made the first shot, he swings around and checks the guy to make sure that he's dead, and he is. Now he's his responsibility. He's holding on that other room to whoever else is in there. I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with Joey, who's right here, and everybody else coming in the building. Hey, line up on me. Let's go right here. I start getting the stack lined up on me. Hours of training, days of training, months of training, weeks of training have brought me to this point. September 2008, Fallujah, Iraq, 22 years old, 4 years in the Navy. Here we go. Stack on me, stack on me. And I hear the guy behind me say, hot target, hostile target. Now all of our training kicks in right here. Everything that we had done for the last year and a half as a team had established that when we hear hot target, that means we frag every room. A fragmentation grenade It's got a kill radius of 5 meters and an injury radius of 15 meters. What that means is we throw a grenade into the room before we go in. We know that there is ill intent in this house. We know that the guy we're going at, we don't know if it's the guy that just got shot, but we know that somebody here has built a bomb and somebody here has also just tried to kill us. So I reach in my back pocket, I've got this pouch right here, I reach in and I take the Velcro off and I pull out a baseball-sized olive drab grenade. And it's got some green rigger's tape on it, like duct tape, and I start unwrapping it.
Why?
Yes.
Because, like you said, better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry. What are you doing by throwing grenades? What are the pluses?
You're eliminating targets.
You're eliminating targets.
Possible dangers.
You're eliminating possible dangers. What are the cons?
There could be a
There could be innocent people in there.
There could be children in
There
there.
could be children. There could be what? I mean, the guy builds bombs for a living, right? Could be hostages. Who's giving the order not to throw grenades? Why?
Because I think that without one down, no one's coming to attack, so you have control of the situation.
Okay. Why else?
In any circumstance, I wouldn't want to take this in life.
Any circumstance you would want to take this? Why?
Could you? So like a flashback or something.
You could. You could. You could throw a flashbang. Yeah, absolutely. Why?
You're tactically trained to handle any situation. So rushing into that area may put, or throwing a frag may put your men in further danger.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I
tactically
just wanted to
trained.
say, I misheard you, I thought you said who has given you the order.
Oh,
Not who is, because I might answer one
Gotcha.
in any way, shape, or form.
gotcha. I was a little worried for a second, but I'm with you now. I'm on the same page. Why?
There's a chance that they can throw back a grenade.
There's a chance you can throw back a grenade. Contrary to popular belief, never try and throw a grenade back if you're concerned. Just get the hell out of there. Why else?
You could be destroying files about another attack.
Say it again?
You could be destroying like, files about another attack.
Man, you guys watch a lot of Jack Bauer, don't you? No, you're right though. You could destroy something that you don't know what's there, right?
There could be another issue in that, other being explosive in that room.
There could be another explosive in that room. You can set off another explosive. You can drop the house down. I know that this was September 19th, 2008. I know, beyond a certain shadow of doubt, but I've been in the Navy for 4 years. I know that we just got shot at. I know that we just blew the door open. I know that we're going after a bad guy. I know the atmospherics. I know all of this. These are all the things that I know. What I don't know is what's down the hallway. That's the unknown. So when my boss, when Chris grabs me by the armor, when he grabs me, he looks at me and he says, "Stop. No frags. Do not throw that grenade." Roger. And I look square at him. We got our night vision. Goggle to goggle. Roger. He's asking me, "Do you understand?" And I look back and I said, "Roger, sir, got it." And in that moment, I didn't understand. I did not understand. We had trained for days, for weeks, for months, for years. We had trained that when we call a hot target, we're throwing grenades in the rooms because it keeps my butt safe. I've got a pregnant wife at home. I've got a younger brother. I've got parents that love me. I don't want to go home in any different condition than I arrived. With all 10 fingers and all 10 holes, all 10 toes, and no extra holes when I was born. Like, that's my goal. Throwing a grenade into the room is going to ensure that I do so. But I looked back at him and I said, "Roger, sir." And I put the tape back on the spoon. And I put it back in my pouch. I did one final check. I got the squeeze from the rest of the stack. And I gave Joey a squeeze. And he rolled down the hallway. And when you're rolling down the hallway, the point man pushes right past that door. The point man pushes right past that first open door. And it's my responsibility. So here's our open door right here. Here's my open door. First thing. Chris, get awesome, man. Come on, Chris, for a second. Chris, pretend you're holding a gun for a second. Like you're going to shoot something at. That's pretty badass. No. All right, turn this way, Chris. No. Oh, all the way around. All the way around. All right. So, Chris, this is our hallway right here. This is our hallway. Chris is now our point man. This is the door. Boom. I'm number 2 man. The way this works is Chris rolls past the door. It's my job to put my body armor, my plate, in between the unknown threat and his side, his back. I'm putting myself in between him and the unknown. Got my finger outside of the trigger well. My weapon's on fire. Chris is pointing his gun down the hallway. Chris, you're going to start walking past the doorway, just like we normally would. Chris walks past the doorway. Is that right there? As he walks past the doorway, my finger goes in the trigger. Weapon's on fire. He walks past. I break the plane of the door, punch my weapon out, ready to engage any threat that's in front of me. And I'm met by a room full of 8 women and 12 children who are sound asleep. 20 people in a little 20 by 20 room. First thing. Maybe not so quick. I'm met by a room of 20 sleeping people. What do you think that feels like? Knowing that 15 seconds before, I was about ready to throw a grenade in that room. And with the structure of the house, and with the concussive force of that grenade, everyone in that room would have been dead or severely injured. What does that feel like when you break the plane of that door, weapon on fire, finger on the trigger, ready to go? And you're met with that. It's a wake-up call. What else does it feel like?
A little relieving.
A little relieving?
Yeah, I don't get into it.
Yep. What else does it feel like? Your gut drops? I will tell you unequivocally, in the heat of the moment, you don't feel a thing. You don't feel a thing. And it wasn't until, honestly, about 2 years ago, when I started thinking about this a little bit more, when I started talking to teams, when I started opening up about myself a little bit more, and I started thinking, how can I relate something that's really impactful to me in my life? How can I relate that to them and what they need to do? And I started thinking, when I rolled around that corner, weapon on fire, finger on the trigger, ready to rock and roll, I didn't feel a thing. Why did Chris give the order not to throw a grenade that day? Why? Experience? Maybe. Why else?
Maybe the preparation, all the preparation that you've had, the training, just,
What part of it?
I'm not sure.
Take a step back for a second, everyone. Everyone stand up for a second. Everyone stand up. Move back to the weights. All right, everyone sit back down. Hey, listen, I know it's hot. Bear with me for another 5 minutes. I know it's hot in here. Why? I want to know why. Why didn't he give that order to throw the grenade that day? Gut feeling? You have the exact information that he had on that day. Why? Gut feeling? Why? Bigger than that. Bigger picture. Nope. Pan back. Pan back. Pan back. Pan back.
The mission changed.
Nope. They've got another building.
The mission changed.
What was the mission? Why were we there? Why were we in Iraq in the first place? To catch you. Hold on. The mission that night was to do what? Catch the IED maker. What's the bigger mission? What's the big picture? Big picture.
To, like, first impression, to leave a first impression.
What kind of first impression?
A positive one. If you go in there killing 20 people that are women and children, that's not going to really leave a good impression of the American people.
Remember, our mission set in Iraq had changed from a direct hammer approach to a softer, gentler, kinder we had to put an Iraqi face on everything. We were transitioning the power over to the Iraqis. How would that have looked if I had thrown a fragmentation grenade into a room full of 20 sleeping women and children and killed all of them in there? Is that going to win hearts and minds? So why did Chris make that decision that day? Because you saw what? And you think about overall mission, Ashley, right? Yeah. Ashley, we talked about the roles of a leader, right? The standards of a leader. Remember what the first one was?
Standards of a leader?
Yep.
I don't know.
Get the job done. What do we call that?
Accountability.
Nope. Nope. Accomplish the mission. If I had thrown a grenade that day, would Chris be accomplishing his mission? No. Would the United States be accomplishing their mission? No, absolutely not. Actually, what's the second part? After accomplish your mission, what do great leaders do?
Accountability.
Nope. Do what's best for who?
Do what's best for you.
Take care of your people, right? Your teammate or the team? What's more important, accomplishing your overall mission or taking care of your people? Hold on. What's more important, accomplishing your overall mission or taking care of your people?
Taking care of your people. You can't get the mission done without your people.
Hold on. Bear with me, guys. Listen. What's more important? Show of hands. Accomplishing our mission or taking care of our people? Who wants to accomplish the mission first? Why?
Because you came there to get the job done, so you can't leave without being done.
What would happen if Chris had taken care of his people? Throwing a grenade, that's taking care of your people, right? You're neutralizing any potential threat that's in that room. You guys understand that, right? That's taking care of me. That's making sure that my butt doesn't get shot or is potentially shot walking into this room. What is it not doing?
Following the order.
It's not accomplishing the mission, right? Now, I understand what you're saying. It's putting me at a greater risk, but if we destabilize the entire Anbar province, is that accomplishing our mission?
No.
Is that actually putting more people at risk?
Mm-hmm.
So you may need to put a few people at risk first, right? So listen, I went, after that room, I got relieved by one of the other guys, and I went down to the last door in the hallway, and the other Chris, 3 Chris's, pretty awesome, just like today. I kick the door open, and I see the guy that we're looking for. I see him, and he's sitting on the edge of his bed, and he's sitting there, just like this. He's got his wife sitting next to him, and in his hand, I kick the door open, got my weapon out, my finger on the trigger, weapon on fire, and he's sitting there, looking back at me, with his hands like this. And he's got his 2-year-old baby in his hands. I start yelling at him. Yellow, Roy, Emshi, Ta'al. Get over here. Get up. Show me your hands. Come on. Let's go. I'm done with this foolishness. He's not moving anywhere. So Chris provides cover, and I walk in, and I remove his child from his hands, and I hand him my teammate, put flex cuffs on him, and wrap him up. Target secure. Start checking the building. We find underneath his dresser 7 pounds of homemade explosives, det cord, blasting caps, everything he needs to make a bomb, sitting right there next to where his baby's sleeping. Prep for exfil, trucks roll in, we walk outside. Buddy Aaron puts the charge in the middle of the yard, blows up all the explosives we don't bring with us. They can't use them against us. We get in the trucks, we go home. Mission accomplished. 1 bad guy killed, 1 bad guy captured, all Americans, all in one piece. That day, September 19, 2008, sits in the back of my head. My SEAL career sits in the back of my head as a reminder that everything that you do in life, everything that you do makes a difference. Let me leave you with this. Everyone look up here. Stop messing around with your phones and listen. Anybody can be great. Anybody can be great. But only the few have the perseverance and the passion to choose greatness. Anybody can be great. But only the few have the perseverance and the passion to pursue it. I challenge you. Have the passion, have the perseverance, have the pursuit. Go out and be great. Thanks for having me, guys. Influential and impactful guys that were SEALs, that had been SEALs, and that currently were SEALs. And one friend of mine, Nate Hardy in particular, told me it's the greatest job in the world, and I've never regretted it a day in my life. And he said, listen, man, you get to jump out of planes, you get to blow stuff up, and you get to travel around the world. How much cooler can it be? I said, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, it was, I played football, and my identity was forged as being a member of a team. And I had no idea this was happening to me through middle school, high school. I played my freshman year at college at a Division III school, Plymouth State up in New Hampshire. Did great, got to play a ton. Transferred to Delaware, 1AA at that point. Got hurt, a couple knee operations later. I was no longer playing football. I was on my own, lamenting not being part of something bigger than me, looking for what am I going to do the rest of my life. And I ran into a recruiter, started the process, and like Chris, I learned about the team element of the SEAL community, and it is exactly like football, cross country. It's every sport, you all cheer. I see the cheerleaders in the back. You're part of the team, achieving something greater than you do individually. And that is what I wanted more than anything. And I missed it those couple of years after college. And I signed up, and I've never regretted the minute of either. So, good question. In the back.
Oh, thanks. So you guys mentioned that like holding your peers accountable is like a really difficult thing to do sometimes. So my two questions are, have you guys ever been in a situation where you want to hold like one of your teammates accountable? And the second part is, like, what advice do you give us to like the kids to hold their peers or their teammates accountable, for whatever?
Yeah, holding the teammate accountable. We had a guy on our team, I won't mention his name, who was a friend of mine. I suspect he was a friend of Chris's as well, who was a phenomenal warrior. Silver Star recipient, which is a recognition you get. Unbelievable shooter. When you look at the skill element of him and his capabilities, he's the top of the pack. He became disruptive from a leadership and culture perspective. We tried to mentor him. We worked with him to help him grow, and he continued to be disruptive. And I made that comment earlier, addition through subtraction. We did subtract him. He hates me to this day, holds me accountable. I consider it one of the best decisions I've ever been part of it. We gave him every chance to remediate and to grow, and to get online with the culture we were after, and he just didn't want to see it that way. It's sad, but that level of accountability was critical because you could see the unit he was part of go immediately. When I say immediately, within weeks, go from the worst sub-unit within our larger team to become the best within a few weeks. It was the toughest decision I ever made, but probably the best one when I look back on it.
Just to hit on accountability as a big picture thing, right? I think we need to change our perception of what accountability is, and not just accept it, but seek it out. To be honest with you, everyone, the top coaches in the country, they not only want a team member that can receive being held accountable, but they want someone that seeks it out, that is actively saying, hey, what can I do better? Today was pretty good, but what can I do better? I think there's a huge misconception with someone's holding them accountable. It's a negative thing, right? There's a negative stigma to it. But if I'm going to say, what's your first name, sir? Bill. Bill. If I'm going to hold you accountable, like that's difficult for me to do, right? It makes me uncomfortable to have that conversation with you. And what we need to change our perception is to not just hearing me say it to you. It's recognizing the fact that your improvement is more important than my comfort. Because I'm uncomfortable doing this, right? So I value your improvement more than I value my own comfort. I think as a society, as a culture, if we can change that mentality, I think we'll go a long way. Because it's uncomfortable to have those difficult conversations, right? But nothing happens unless you do. It's a great question, though.
But
Tom, you mentioned Captain Chaby, I'm sorry. Tom, you mentioned culture a lot. Culture versus talent. What do you mean by culture exactly?
yeah, culture is a pretty nebulous concept. You have talent. Talent is the ability to do the components of whatever sport. You're a football player, whatever position you play. So to kick the ball within the goalpost, or to kick long for kickoffs, or to punt, or whichever you all those three. Culture is buying into what Coach Curry, in this example, his narrative, his vision, and buying into it in a way that I call it symbiotic spiraling. And people, my teammates used to, I don't know if Coach remembers me saying that they would look at me like, what are you talking about? You know what symbiotic is, like every component supports the next. I look at that shared values, then you go to expectations, buy-in, you go to accountability, being empowered the whole time. You just keep going around and it just keeps spiraling upward. You just keep getting better and better. The accountability, it becomes set. Like Chris and I, we could talk about this the whole day after this, and it'll be like a 3-minute thing. Because there's zero ego involved. We've been through that mission he described. I wasn't on the mission, but I was back at the headquarters, and I was with them immediately when they came back. And then brought General Kelly, the current chief of staff in the White House, briefed the key players of that mission right afterward. And our ability to just grow, get better, this doesn't happen overnight. That model I put up there, the team effectiveness model, it just doesn't happen. You have to accept it, look at it, grow. Then take it to the next level. Like shared values, like dig deep. That's great. But what other things are shared values? Showing up time? That's great. Let's embrace performing under pressure. Getting a professional athlete to embrace deliberately training performing under pressure is not an easy thing to do. These are people that have, every time they've competed at your level, collegiate level, they've smoked it, they've dominated. They don't need performance under pressure. But when you show them those measures of effectiveness, their performance in Game 7s of playoffs, and how subpar that is to where they are normally, it wakes them up a little bit. Now you get them to buy into it. You just keep that going upward as a team. And then the leaders, which are everybody in the room, the more you embrace it, the more you suck out of your coaches, the more you look, how can we get 1% better? How can we get 1% better than that? How can we grow? How can we keep it going? To me, that's culture. You look at the New England Patriots, you look at the New Zealand All Blacks, there are a lot of great teams. There's a great book out there that I showed it to Coach Curry called Captain's Class. If you want to read something about becoming a leader on a team, check that one out. And it doesn't talk about great athletes, it talks about great athletic ability, which is phenomenal.
I said it to Captain Chaby earlier. I believe in culture. I don't believe in Kool-Aid. You guys understand what Kool-Aid is?
The reference you're making.
The what?
The reference you're making?
Yes. Who doesn't understand what Kool-Aid is? No one's going to raise their hand. You got one. What's Kool-Aid then?
Are you referencing like the whole thing, like the Kool-Aid, like don't drink the Kool-Aid?
Like don't drink Kool-Aid. Yeah. You guys understand what I mean by that? Nope, not that. Nope, not Jim Jones. So Kool-Aid. Who has got a good example of what Kool-Aid is? Not the drink. Go ahead.
It's almost like without question, like just accepting a way of how things are, and like buying in, but in a bad way, like almost too much, without like voicing concern, just like drink the Kool-Aid and accept it.
Drink the Kool-Aid and accept it, unquestionably, right? We don't want people that are going to rock the boat. That's Kool-Aid. I hate Kool-Aid. Except the grape stuff, that's what you do. I love culture, and I think there's a huge difference between culture and Kool-Aid. I'm all about culture. That's accountability. That's making the right people in the right places. I love culture. I hate Kool-Aid. Honestly, I feel like I was able to have a disconnect between my mind and my body. Like literally, you just keep running, right? You just keep swimming. you're able to separate physical pain and mental. You just kind of, I don't know, you go blank, you get in that flow state, you just keep going, right? And truthfully, for me, when I showed up to Buzz, I was 19, and I had guys in my class that had a swimmer from Clemson. I had guys who were knocking out like 30 pull-ups out of SAD, just yoked dudes covered in tats, and I was like, oh, those guys look like Navy SEALs, right? And there are some guys that look like that, but by and large, it's like Tuesday night of Hell Week. I'm like, well, there goes the Clemson swimmer, and Wednesday morning, oh, there goes all the guys with all the tattoos. Like, it's not. I didn't think it was that hard, but okay. I guess people aren't quitting. The biggest secret to Buzz, truthfully, is just not quitting.
I brought a bunch of my guys, and I even coach a bunch of guys in this room. BJ invited me over with my group to listen to you guys for multiple reasons. And I stress big time, effort, position, feels attack. I don't stress the win. The win's going to come. Effort, process. You give me all your effort, you work the position, and you act fiercely, we're going to go places, even if it's not today. We deal with guys that, not my guys, from everybody, guys that are, they've got all the ability in the world, and all they need to do is lose their fear of failure to step up and attack. Might always make it to the finals and take seconds. They lose belief in themselves. I'm sure you guys deal with that a lot when you deal with people that are going through Buzz, even in work. What would you say to the guys with the most talent that can step up and they're just held back by hesitation and fear? What would you do to pump those guys up? And another question is, a two-part, what would you say to the guys that have all the talent in the world, but they don't have the construction or have come up with an excuse?
Yeah.
Those two things are very important to me, and I think it probably would help some of the kids in the room.
The first one, for me, it's just recontextualizing failure. I've coached my two boys in football. They're 8 and they're 10. And the 8-year-old level, I had this young man, the first time he ever picked up a football, he threw it 35 yards. I'm not exaggerating. It was the freakiest thing I've ever seen. Huge, his dad's 6'9", his mom's 5'11". The kid is already that much taller than everybody in his age group. So we're playing football. He threw an interception. He was uncontrollable, insoluble. And my younger son, who I work with him on all this all the time, he has no idea. He lives in this incubator known as my house. He's that much shorter on the other end of the scale. My wife's a whopping 5'2". And he went out there, took the ball, and just smoked it. And I asked Christian, do you want to play quarterback again? Because he's our quarterback. He would shake. So the next game, I'm like, Christian, you're playing quarterback. And when I go, Christian, you're playing quarterback. And for 7 and 8-year-olds, the coolest thing, the coach is on the field with the players. I love it. You're drawing up plays, you're talking to them. I'm like, Christian, come here. Here's the deal. Here's the play. Trevor, my son, you're going to go deep. Go all the way to the end. I want you guys to go all the way to the end zone. Christian, throw an interception. He said, what are you talking about? Throw an interception. Just do it. Make sure you do it deep. So we get it back, pin back, and we'll get the ball back. So he does it, and he's like ready to start crying. I'm like, all right, that's a big deal. See what I said. Go have fun. Please, go have fun. The guy smoked it the rest of the year. He owned it. Never got. He threw more interceptions. Don't get me wrong, but he changed his perception of that. And when he was able to start failing forward, he threw one. He said, "Coach, I know what I did. I threw off my back foot." Like, that's exactly what he did. And changing the context was huge.
Remind me again, the first part of your question.
First part is to get them to step up and face their fears and go after it because they have the ability. The second part is when you tell the guys that have all the talent in the world, but excuses and justify their way through things when they should be quiet and listen.
I feel like we're looking at a certain for a certain player. Just saying. So what is fear? Biologically, what's fear? What is it? Fight or flight? But what is it? Chemicals where? That's all it is. It's chemicals, right? Listen, fear is normal. Fear is normal. Fear is normal. Why do I do that? To emphasize some points, because this is really important stuff. Fear is normal. Fear is natural. Here's the deal. When I would go get on a helicopter, I would sit down at the edge. We have the doors open. I'd sit down. I'd take my helicopter retention lanyard and unhook it from my belt. I'd latch it into the D-ring on the deck of the bird, and I'd sit there. And I'd look to my left, and I would see the little fear monster sitting there just looking back at me. I mean, physics say helicopters shouldn't fly. I mean, really. And I've lost way too many friends in helicopter accidents. But I still had to get on the bird. I had to go to war. Fear is everywhere. What you do, like, if we didn't have fear, our ancestors would have been eaten by saber-toothed tigers eons ago, right? What you do with that fear will dictate so much of your lives. Listen, I work in an environment now with predominantly women, and I hear all the time, I'm anxious, I have anxiety, I can't get out, I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm fearful, what if this happens? What if it does happen? What if it does happen? I mean,
what if you throw an interception? Who cares?
Who cares? Are you going to die from it? Are you going to die from it? So what's the problem? What are we fear of? Fear of embarrassment, right? Fear of people saying, oh man, they didn't do what they were supposed to do, I can't believe that. And that person just made a full jerk of themselves. Okay? So, fear is normal. What you do with that fear will dictate so much of your lives. So much of your lives. And the second part of that is, listen, if you can't hear from your coach you're not doing a good enough job and actively take that in and do a better job, that's going to inhibit you, not just in sports, but in life. Because here's the truth. Here's what I don't tell people. Honestly, here's what I don't tell people. When I got out of the Navy, I struggled to find my purpose. I struggled to find my why. I worked for the State Department. I was unemployed for 6 months. I worked private security in Iraq. I worked for a Land Rover driving experience school. I did construction. I worked for a butcher shop. I worked for a mail order catalog for a year and a half, selling domestics items, which are sheets and blankets. I worked hosiery, footwear, intimates. I've done it all. And I was looking for the team. The biggest mistake I made after I got out of the Navy was not listening to the people who knew what they were talking about. I thought I knew better. Because truthfully, I thought, I got out of the Navy, I thought, I'm a real deal Navy SEAL. That's me. Anybody's going to be lucky to have me on their team. And that was a shock. When all of a sudden, I'm sitting in interviews and people say, hey, this is really impressive. How does it apply to this? That's great. Hey, we really appreciate your service. Great job. We can't use you here. If I only listened to my mentors who said, make sure you're set up, make sure you position yourself well, and learn every opportunity that you get, I would have been in a much different place. I would have gotten here about 5 years ago and not had to do some of the things that I did. I don't know about you, Tom.
I experienced the same thing. I want to return to your comment, though. The saddest thing when it comes to performance optimization is this tendency. People are afraid of failure. They're also afraid of success. And people sometimes unwittingly, which means you don't realize you're doing this, they won't give a full effort. They won't go 100% in. I hate 110%. 100% is maximum. They don't go 100%. So in their mind, they can say, yeah, I didn't do everything. I just, in their mind, they know they just did 90%. Or 90. I have more. I'm really better than that. So their ego is all protected. Forget about your ego. Give 100%. That's all you can get. Do your best and own it.
I think the harder you go, the more you give me the critique. Like you talk about perception. You know, I tell them all the time, it's never what you think it is, it's how you perceive it. That's right. And it's good that you guys are involved. Because honestly, it applies to everyone. Yeah, it really does.
What other questions out there? Yes, sir.
So as in the military, you train as you fight. So in training, you have preparation and execution, so you're successful in the battlefield. Can you give an example of how this will correlate to the kids in athletics? So practicing and how that will be successful in the field and on the mat.
Yeah, you know, I heard a quote. Chris kind of said it before. You know, in the heat of battle, you will not rise to the occasion. You will sink to your training. Is I think how it goes. And I mostly agree with that. You have to simulate what you're getting ready to do. Why wouldn't you? it's not only to physically get ready, it's not only to skill-wise get ready, but it's about psychological readiness. If you want to optimize what you're doing, you have to know what you can do. And I think going beyond what the requirements of whatever it is, that's what we do. Our training, we have done, that Hell Week that you hear about, that's a piece of cake compared to some of the training missions that go aside, where they're trying to simulate something that could potentially happen. But, I look at Hell Week now, I'm like, whatever. I mean, I have a fake hip. I just got a fake hip a couple months ago. I wanted to be more like DJ. And it is, I psychologically think I can do all that now, because that's just my frame of mind. And it's just changing your perspective. Because perspective, not only for pressure, but for performance. If you're ready, if you know you're going to have to do however long a period is in wrestling, you go 45 seconds longer, you can do the period, it's like, this is nothing. And then what's going to get thrown at you? You know that time they said, you're dead? I was a lieutenant at the time. They throw the craziest what-ifs at us. I was on a mission once, training mission. The helicopter came to get us, and they said, oh, guess what happened? One of the engines went down. They made us walk 20 miles back to the base with all our gear. It's about 95 degrees in the middle of the night. This is in that desert I was talking about. And the what-ifs, you own it. Own the intangibles. And through that training, you will be ready to go when it matters most.
Do me a favor, stand up for a second. What's your first name? Danny? Danny, what grade are you in? You're going into ninth grade. Anybody else going into ninth grade? 2, 3, 4. Okay, Danny, here's what I'd like you to do. Danny, I want you to turn and face the rest of your... Does anybody know Danny? No. Come here, Danny. Come here. Everybody look. This is Danny. Everyone say hi to Danny. Hi. Danny, you're going to love your first test. Okay, now Danny, here's why I'm doing this, man. Here's why I'm doing this. Because you're walking into high school, right? You have an opportunity to make an impression. First day of high school. When's the first day? 6th, right? Right around the corner, right? Yeah, like 2 weeks. Okay, so Danny, here's what I want you to know. How you do everything, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So, I want you to project that question as loud as you can out to the rest of the audience, so they can all hear you, because it's a great question. I know you didn't write it, but you get to read it.
How can you overcome being intimidated by an opponent?
Let's give it up for Danny, guys. Danny, you're going to have the best freshman year ever. How do you overcome being intimidated by an opponent? Listen, the truth is, as Captain Chaby has said, it's a mentality. It's a mentality. If you are willing to do whatever it takes in order to be successful, you're going to be successful. But you have to be willing to sacrifice. Who here thinks they give great effort when they play? Who here gives all their effort that they have every single day at practice? Okay, everyone, keep your hands right where they are. Everybody else, look around. Why is that? Why do we give 100% effort at practice every single day? What do you mean? Why are we resistant to give 100% effort? Because it's not easy, right? It's not easy. What's your first name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, it's not easy, is it? It's not easy. It takes work, right? Yes. Rebecca, but if you prepared every single day for who's your top opponent, what sport do you play? Volleyball. If you prepared every single day, who's your toughest competitor? Would you be intimidated by them if you knew you were ready? So what does that mean we need to do?
Work harder.
Work harder, so we're prepared, so when they show up, we're just ready to
just knock them down, right? Now, Rebecca, I didn't say that. You said that. You and your team need to just work harder, right? Just that little bit, work harder.
For me, it's when your career ends. It is an unbelievable honor. That feeling you get from being part of the team here, wrestling, football, volleyball, cheer, soccer, cross country, whatever it is, being part of a team, for me, is the greatest feeling in the world. And then when it's done, it's done. You know, the physical part, I love that. Crush me. Make it so I am so crushed, I've never been crushed like that before. The psychological part, challenge me. Make me fail. Then critique the heck out of me. I want that. I love it. I own it. I don't get that every day now. I do a little bit in public speaking. Every once in a while, somebody will come up and critique me. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't go in front of the projector at all, because a talk I gave about 3 months ago, a Dale Carnegie guy came up to me and told me never to do that again. It's very, very disruptive. And he was right. But I miss the being a part of the team piece. The hardest piece is not being there. And the hardest piece is when we have an unbelievable ability in our community where we hold each other accountable from the lowest level to the highest level. Like Chris, yes, organizationally, he worked for me. But the reality of it, we worked together. He held me accountable. It's when they stop holding you accountable, that means you're no longer part of the team. You have just been chastised, cast aside, where they don't care. Coach said it perfectly, like, the harder you work, the more you put into that effort, the more he has to critique. Because you're more of a teammate there. You're buying in. You are relevant. You are giving it. If you just give a haphazard effort, I don't know, what's easy to go? I kind of just lukewarm. Yeah. Try again next time. When that's gone, yeah, it's...
Physically, there's no hard parts. They're all challenges. They're physically challenging, absolutely. But once you change your mentality, hard has a whole new meaning. Hard. For me, the hardest part about being a SEAL, truthfully, was when my friend, Alex Gonning, got killed in a training accident, was walking up to the front door of his house and telling his mom that he'd been killed. That was the hardest thing for me about being a SEAL. Second to that was deciding to hang it up and walk away from it. Because I did 8 years. I didn't retire. I made the decision, my wife and I made the decision, we're having kids, having family, made the decision to walk away from it. Not being part of the team, that's why I struggled after I got out. Because I tried to replicate the physicality of being a SEAL. That wasn't what I loved. Jumping out playing football and stuff, oh yeah, it's cool. But being part of the team is what really mattered. And I finally feel like I found that again in what I'm doing. So, again, find your passion. Pursue your passion with everything that you have.
Was there ever a moment where either of you lost genuine hope on a mission, and what did you do to kind of regain that?
Captain, I'll let you speak for yourself, but for me, no, there wasn't a point where it was ever perilous. I was in a few good fights here and there, and there's some close calls, and you kind of go like, woo, yeah, that's a bullet that's hitting the wall right here, like, all right. But it's a mentality. I'm just going to bring the fight to the enemy. And if you get me, you get me. But I'm going to bring my best. You know who Pedro Martinez is? Anybody? Who's Pedro Martinez? For who?
The Yankees are sad, right?
Played for the Red Sox. Knocked out Tom Zimmer. So, Pedro Martinez gave an interview a few years back, and he said, when I got on the mound, I was throwing it every single day, everything I had. And you know what? If they got a hit on me, I was okay with that, because I'm bringing everything that I got. So listen, when I went to war, I'm bringing everything I have. And if you get me with a roadside bomb, with a lucky shot, hey, you win the day. But I'm not gonna let you take it from me. I'm gonna give it right back to you.
Yeah, I'll just say the 31,000 hours that you so illustriously deciphered and knew what it meant. It's the training. You put the time into training, things become automatic. You don't think about it. When the pressure's there, you know how to handle pressure, and you start, hearing about it today, like Chaby talked about endocrinology, talked about challenger threat. That's cool. If you really want to own pressure, start thinking about that all the time. I mean, I have nothing to prepare for other than speaking publicly, maybe, being a coach. I love that. Mentoring athletes. And I do it every day. I mess with it when I'm driving. I shoot napkins into the garbage can. We want to pull it out just look far enough for it to fit through. I'll set the microwave for 4, and I'll make the shot. I'll do a jump shot. And then while I'm doing it, I try to simulate certain conditions, and I pay attention to what's happening. I know, like with my vision, like I have good peripheral vision, like I can see Chris right now. When that starts closing in, that's one of the physiological realities that you're living under a challenge threat. I know I have to take a step back, reset, open up, own it. And yeah, it's just, I've been in some gnarly situations, nothing like the movie Lone Survivor, but, stuff you don't want to do. Like Chris said, I never thought about it. I just did what you needed to do.
How about everyone get to their feet and another round of applause for these two fine men sharing their day with you. Thank you very much.